Hey guys, this is our second day of learning about y-intercepts. Remember we found y-intercepts from a graph and a t-table last time, and there were certain occasions where you had an intercept that was in the middle of 2 points and you weren't exactly sure the exact point and you were having to make some guesses. Okay, so today we're going to learn how to make find y-intercepts that are perfect. They're not just guesses anymore. Okay, so just some review. Okay, we know about intersects that the point on a line that crosses the x-axis. This should be a review. Okay, it's the point on the line that crosses the x-axis. Okay, and on your x-intercepts, your y-coordinate, remember, is always 0. And so an example of what it might look like, an ordered pair could be pretty much anything, and your y-coordinate is 0. And so you could plug anything above that line there. Okay, so y-intercepts, if you remember, is the point on a line that crosses the y-axis. Point on the line that crosses the y-axis. Okay, and we know on our y-intercepts that the x-coordinate is always 0. And if you wanted to know what an ordered pair for a y-intercept would look like, you know that your x value is always going to be 0, and that you could plug anything in for your y value. It doesn't matter. Okay, so let's look at a few examples here, and let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so you're given this equation right here, y equals negative 2.5x plus 5.75, and we've been given its corresponding graph over here. Okay, and we want to go ahead and estimate the y-intercept and the x-intercept. Okay, so remember our y-intercept is the one on the y-axis, and we want to estimate what this number is. Well, it looks like you can go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5.5. Okay, so we're going to guess that the y-intercept is about 5.5. Okay, let's guess our x-intercept. Okay, our x-intercept, it looks like it's at about 2.5. Okay, so we were guessing last time on where intercepts were, but I'm going to show you how to find them exactly. So they're exact locations. Okay, so to do that, you want to go ahead and know that the x-intercept, the y-coordinate, is always 0. The y-coordinate is always 0. So if you have your equation from up here, we're going to bring that on down, and we're going to use that. So we have our y equals negative 2.5x plus 5.75. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and find our x-intercept when we know that y is 0. So we can go ahead and take that 0 value and plug it in where our y is. Okay, so we have 0 equals negative 2.5x plus 5.75. Okay, so we need to go ahead and solve this equation like we've done many times before. Okay, so let's get our x's all by themselves. So we want to undo addition with subtraction. So subtract 5.75 on both sides. Okay, that would give you negative 5.75 equals negative 2.5x. Okay, and then of course undo multiplication with division. Okay, and if you go ahead and divide that on your calculator, you would know that x would be equal to 2.3. Okay, so your x-intercept would be located at 2.3, and if you wanted to know the ordered pair of that location, you simply plug that x value that we found into the x part of the ordered pair. And remember, for x-intercepts, your y value is always 0. Okay, so this is your x-intercept. This is the location of that x-intercept. Okay, so a lot of information. You're going to have to go back and watch this or relook at your notes. Okay, so that was the x-intercept. Let's go ahead and find our y-intercept. And for your y-intercept, remember the x-coordinate is always 0. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and use our equation again. Remember our y equals negative 2.5x plus 5.75. Okay, so this time we know our x-coordinate is always 0, so we can plug in a 0 for x. So we have y equals negative 2.5, and we have an x, so we're going to plug in a 0 and add in 5.75. Okay, so if you have negative 2.5 times 0, those simply cancel out, and we would have y equals 5.75. Okay, so we know our y-intercept is 5.75, but we want to know the coordinate of that location. So y-intercepts always have an x value of 0, and we can go ahead and plug in our 5.75. So if you go back up here to your estimates, okay, we wanted to say that the y-intercept was 5.5. Well, it's actually 5.75, and we wanted to see that the x-intercept was 2.5, but it actually ended up being 2.3. So this is why it's very important to go ahead and figure out what exactly your intercepts are instead of guessing. All right, let's go ahead and try one more of these bad boys. And we're going to go ahead and skip through the estimates, and I just want to get straight to the math here. Okay, so our example number 2, we want to do our x-intercept, and remember the x-intercept, your y-coordinate is always 0. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug that in. We know that y equals 0.45x minus 3.7. We can plug a 0 into y, and we can go ahead and solve for x. Okay, so let's go ahead and zoom in on that. Okay, so we want to solve that equation for x, so we have to undo subtraction with addition. Okay, so add 3.7 to both sides, so you have 3.7 equals 0.45x. Okay, and then we need to go ahead and divide by 0.45 on both sides. Okay, so if you do that, those 0.45s cancel out, and we would get x equals 8.2. Okay, so we know that our x-coordinate crosses at 8.2, so we know that happens at 8.2. Oops. At 8.2, and our y-coordinate, of course, is 0. Okay, so that's where our x-intercept is. Okay, but for our y-intercept, we know that our x-coordinate is 0. Okay, so we'll use the same equation again, except we'll plug in a x value of 0. So we have our y equals 0.45 times 0 minus 3.7. Okay, well 0.45 times 0 gives you 0, so you have your y value of negative 3.7. Okay, so that would give you your y-intercept, and at that location, you know that your x value is 0, and your y value is negative 3.7. Okay, so that would give you pretty much exact location of the intercepts for your x and your y. All right. Okay, I want you to go ahead and do the same thing with this graph and go ahead and see if you can find the x and y intercepts. Okay, remember, go ahead and fill this in. This definitely will help you when you are solving for the intercepts. See ya.